I'm mad because every coach that I talk to about the transfer portal that doesn't like it has signed a bunch of kids in the transfer portal. We're going to go over it today.
Welcome into a very special edition of college football today. We're not going to name names as far as coaches go and why Carl's mad, but we are revealing names today. It is our transfer portal rankings reveal show, which is why we have a loaded desk here in our Nashville studio. You know the coach, Coach Carl Reed. Here with us today, though, is Clint Brewster. He is a member of our rankings team. We'll get some firsthand knowledge about those conversations. And joining us virtually is our expert portal analyst, Chris Hummer. So here's what we're doing today, guys. We will reveal the top 20 players in our updated portal rankings. We'll give analysis on each of the top 10, then go position by position, highlight some of the top classes, and answer your viewer questions. It should be loaded. It's going to be a fun show today. So please join the chat by subscribing to the 247 Sports YouTube channel. Also, hit that like button. We already have 20 likes. I'd love to get 100 by the end of today. A lot of hard work went into putting this show together, went into putting the rankings together, so definitely hit that like button. We do a lot of rankings here at 247 Sports, and we always say that we're about transparency. So first, Clint, I'm going to ask you this. What factors into ranking these portal players?
Proven production at the college level is the most important factor for us. Are they a multi-year starter? Are they an all-conference player, all-American? What's their NFL draft upside, their positional value? NFL draft is the highest pinnacle of evaluation, so we put a lot of stock into that. You know, where will they be drafted in the NFL? That's the biggest thing for us, or one of the biggest things for us.
I like it. What is the hardest part about ranking these prospects?
The hardest part is when a player doesn't play. You know, when he redshirts his freshman year, or when he doesn't play, you know, for 2 or 3 years, then you're like, where do you rank him? You don't have any film. So we have to base that off of intel. You know, what are coaches saying? Were they behind an NFL player? One instance for me that really stands out was Drew Sanders from Arkansas this past year. He went from Alabama to Arkansas, and he was behind an NFL player in Dallas Turner, and he had an injury. So you really have to dig in and see, you know, what was the reason why they transferred, you know, and obviously Drew Sanders is a great player, and that's why, you know, we ranked him very highly still, even though he was behind on the depth chart.
Yeah, that's just one player going through hundreds of players here. Let's waste no more time and show you our 11 to 20 here. A lot of great players. Some interesting new spots where they're headed. Chris, I'll throw it out to you. On this list of 11 to 20, who stands out?
I love Jahad Carter going to Ohio State from Syracuse. Jahad Carter is the type of safety who can play free safety, he can play strong safety, he can play nickel. And the way Jim Knowles uses his safeties at Ohio State, using 3 of them at a time, Jahad Carter is the perfect chess piece at the back of a Buckeye secondary that could use an infusion of talent. So I really like that fit.
Carl, what about you?
For me, I'm going to go with quarterback Hudson Card, leaving Texas and going to Purdue. A lot of people in the Lone Star State felt like Hudson Card should have been the starter over Quinn Ewers. Ryan Walters did a great job when he got the job at Purdue in terms of identifying an offensive coordinator in Graham Harrell, and they went after Hudson Card right away. I think in Graham Harrell's air raid offense in the Big Ten for Purdue, Hudson Card is going to have a huge year throwing the football up in the state of Indiana.
A lot of wide receivers in this group here, and one in particular stands out to you, Clint.
Yeah, I really like A.D. Mitchell going to Texas from Georgia. Big-time vertical stretch outside receiver at 6'4". He'll be a great complement to Xavier Worthy on the outside at Texas. He had some huge catches in the national championship game in 2021. I think that he'll be a great piece at Texas.
A lot of great players in that range, but we are here for the top 10, which I know a lot of effort went into figuring out these positions. So let's go ahead and reveal them 10 to 1. And coming in at number 10, a tight end, Jaheim Bell, transferring from South Carolina to Florida State.
Yeah, Jaheim Bell's one of the most versatile players in the country, full stop. Can play tight end, can play running back, can play wide receiver. He can do a little bit of everything. And given that Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins, Florida State's offensive coordinator, are two of the most creative play callers in the country, I think this is a match made in heaven. They'll be able to put Bell in a lot of different places, and I think he'll be a really dynamic and dangerous threat for Florida State.
Another former South Carolina player coming in at number 9, that is Jordan Birch, transferring to Oregon.
Jordan Birch is a defensive lineman with a multi-dimensional skill set. He can play in the 3-4, he can play in the 4-3 or 4-2-5 as people calling it, even and odd fronts. And Emily, he can play multiple positions in both of those fronts. Oregon defensively with Tosh Laporte coaching the defensive line and Dan Lanning being known for creating mismatches in his defense. This is a huge pickup for the Oregon Ducks. I'm expecting a huge season out of Jordan Birch that's going to catapult him into being one of the top draft prospects, and we'll be talking about him a year from now when we're covering the NFL draft.
Exactly what Clint just said is the goal of these transfer portal rankings. How about number 8? Javion Cohen, the Alabama offensive lineman, is transferring to Miami.
Mario Cristobal loves his offensive linemen. He's an offensive line coach first, and this was a huge pickup for the Hurricanes. Get a multi-year starter from Alabama. Miami's pass blocking last year was one of the worst in the Power 5, one of the worst in the ACC. And Javion Cohen's one of the best pass blocking guards in the country. He's going to be a huge help for Tyler Van Dyke next year, and I think he's going to make the Miami offense a lot better just with his presence.
Our number 7 transfer portal player is Dominic Lovett. Missouri wide receiver is now off to Georgia.
Yeah, extremely versatile offensive weapon. He can go deep. He can take the speed sweeps. He can take the quick screens. He was the SEC's 3rd leading receiver in the regular season. He's great at the slot fade. As you can see on film, he's got route separation underneath. UGA really needs him to step up in a big way with some of the pieces that they lost this past season.
At number 6, quarterback Devin Leary, the former NC State signal caller, is now headed to Kentucky.
Big pickup here for Kentucky. Devin Leary came into the season with a lot of hype at NC State. Kentucky had a need at quarterback. He identifies that need. Great offensive coordinator in Liam Cohen, getting the opportunity to play in a pro-style offense. Huge pickup for Kentucky here with Devin Leary.
Our top-ranked quarterback coming in at number 5, Sam Hartman, the former Wake Forest quarterback, is now suiting up for Notre Dame.
Yeah, he threw for nearly 13,000 yards at Wake Forest, 110 touchdowns at Wake. He's a natural pocket passer, great passing instincts, throwing away from coverage, his deep ball accuracy. He could have left and would likely have been a mid-round draft pick, but he bet on himself and came back for the spotlight at Notre Dame.
At number 4, Virginia cornerback Fentrell Cypress is now playing at Transfer Portal U, Florida State.
Huge pickup for the Seminoles. Fentrell Cypress, a lockdown corner. You can use him following the number 1 receiver, or it gives you some versatility, locking him on the number 2 receiver and doubling number 1. This is a huge pickup on the back end for Florida State. Fentrell Cypress, cover corner, NFL written all over him.
At number 3, it's Denver Harris, the Texas A&M cornerback, is now transferred to LSU.
Outside of Travis Hunter, who I know we'll talk about in a second, I think Denver Harris is the highest ceiling of anybody in the transfer portal this offseason. He was a 5-star recruit for a reason. He had an outstanding true freshman season when he was on the field. Opposing passers only completed 36% of their passes against him this year. He was great. The big caveat with Denver Harris is some off-the-field issues. He had a litany of them at Texas A&M, but if he can keep his nose clean at LSU, I believe he's a future first-round pick.
All right, our number 2 transfer portal player is Ernest Hausman. The Nebraska linebacker is now going to play for Michigan.
Yeah, he played the most snaps of any true freshman in 475 this past year. He really flashed sideline-to-sideline ability as a knockback tackler. I love his physicality and his frame. He can carry the slot or the tight end in coverage down the seam. I really like the fit at Michigan and how they develop linebackers.
And coming in at number 1, who else? A guy that just loves to be atop all the rankings we do here at 247 Sports. It's Travis Hunter, following Coach Deion Sanders from Jackson State to Colorado.
I mean, he's the most talented player in college football. I don't think there's any player more talented than him. He can be a first-round draft pick at receiver or cornerback. I mean, he's got length for days. He can play man coverage. He plays the ball extremely well. On offense, you're at the edge of your seat every time he touches the ball. Everybody saw what he can do in 2022 at the end of the season. I think his best football is obviously ahead of him.
We've talked about Travis Hunter a lot on this show, Emily and Clint. Obviously, we know he's a big-time corner, big-time receiver. Don't be surprised also if we see him get involved in the kick return game. A lot of things that he can do with the football, man coverage, zone coverage. This guy has all the tools, all the intangibles. It's no doubt that he was the number 1 player in this situation in the transfer portal class. Travis Hunter, they are expecting big things out of him at Colorado in the Pac-12 this season.
I'm so excited to see Travis Hunter play in the Pac-12 this year. I think he has the potential to be the most exciting two-way player we've seen in college football since Charles Woodson. I hope he gets to play his share of receiver this year. As Clint and Carl attested to, he is one of the most naturally talented skill players we've seen come through college football in a long time, and I hope he's healthy this year. He had some injury bad luck this past season with Jackson State. I hope he's fully healthy this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see him go against some of the quarterbacks in the Pac-12.
All right, let's take one last look at our top 10 transfer portal rankings. A lot of really great talent on this board. Excited to see what they do at their next stop. Hey, we have about 130 people watching our show right now, which is spectacular. Only 35 likes, though. So if a player that you like or your team was mentioned, or just you're enjoying this video, please smash that like button. We would love to get that ratio up just a little bit. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot and figure out what percentage of people are liking the video based on who are watching, because that is far too much math. And also, we have a lot more to get to. Let's start to do some positional breakdowns here, starting with the quarterback position. Clint, as a former quarterback, I mean, looking at DJU down to number 8 on the quarterback rankings, what does he need to do to prove himself in his next spot?
I think that DJU really needs to get his confidence back in trusting his reads, his vision. I mean, he can be one of those reclamation projects like Bo Nix going to the Pac-12. He's obviously one of the most physically talented players in the country. I think that that really his confidence for some reason took a shot, and he wasn't trusting what he saw on the field.
DJU is a guy that we talk about a lot, but Dabo Swinney saw something in him, and he stuck with them throughout the whole season. The fans, everybody was calling for this guy to be benched, and Dabo saw something in him. So that lets me know, did what Coach Swinney see, can that translate to what's going to happen at Oregon State? People think there's going to be a little less pressure, but Oregon State has been winning, and their program is trending in the right direction. This has an opportunity to put DJU in a position where he's right back in the NFL conversation if he can regain his confidence, like Clint said, read the defense and make good throws and not turn the football over, which is the most important thing, Emily, that a quarterback needs to be able to do, take care of the ball.
I think dismissing DJU as an NFL prospect would be super short-sighted at this point. It was only 3 years ago at this time. We were talking about Bryce Young versus DJU being the storyline of college football the next couple of years. Bryce is about to be the number 1 overall pick, and I see no reason DJ can't rebound and become a draft pick down the line. Jonathan Smith has gotten the most out of his quarterbacks at Oregon State the last few years, and I think this is an ideal situation for him to have a bounce back in a little bit quieter of an area of the country. Not as much pressure, not as much spotlight on him, and I think Oregon State has a lot of weapons that are going to be able to accent what he does well.
And it wasn't just Dabo Swinney that saw talent in him. I mean, we ranked him as our number 2 quarterback coming out in his class. So definitely has a skill set, hoping that fresh start and, maybe heading over to the West Coast did some good for Bo Nix. We'll see what it can do for DJU. Real quick, anybody else on that quarterback list that you want to highlight?
Yeah, Sam Jackson. He's going to Cal from TCU. He didn't get much playing time last year behind Max Duggan, but you can see on his highlights he can extend the play, manipulate his arm, get the ball downfield. I think he could have a breakout season in the Pac-12, really turn heads, with his exciting ability as a quarterback.
I love it. All right, let's move to the running backs. The number one back outside of our top 20 rankings, though, is Carson Steele. So, Chris, how did you come to the conclusion to maybe see him first among this list?
Well, I have to give all the credit to Clint on that one. He leads our rankings team. I just helped provide a little bit of feedback. But people love Carson Steele in the transfer portal this offseason. I think he was a lot of people's top backs. And that's not really surprising if you saw him play at Ball State this year. He ranked 9th nationally with over 1,000 yards rushing, or 1,500 yards rushing this season. He led the country in yards after contact. So he makes the most out of his runs. He didn't play behind a great offensive line at Ball State, but he made the most out of every run he had. He won't wow you with his athleticism, but he's a good athlete. And I think he's the type of player in the infrastructure of UCLA, which has been one of the best run blocking units the last couple of years. He could have a season worthy of what we've seen Zach Charbonnet do the last couple of seasons. That means 1,000+ yards. That means conversations about the potential Doak Walker Award. I think Carson Steele is going to have a great season for UCLA.
When I saw Carson Steele's recruitment coming out of Ball State, it let me know that I'm not the only guy that was watching those Maxion games during the week that they have with those weekday games. And so, Emily, from a standpoint of Carson Steele, he's the total package as a running back. Runs very well inside the tackles, also good at running wide zone, very tough to bring down, and an attribute that doesn't get talked about enough, does not fumble the football, Emily and Clint, especially after contact. Takes great care of the ball. I think he's going to have a huge year this year, and we're going to be talking, like a lot of these guys, we're going to be talking about the NFL, and he's going to bring a tremendous amount of value to somebody's football team.
Chris gave you all the credit for putting him at number one.
Chris.
How much conversation was there about this running back group?
I mean, there was a lot, but Carson Steele's name just kept coming up, and we just love the toughness that he brings, the production that he had. I kept on saying proven college production, and that's exactly what he had. Multi-year starter. I mean, he's got it. He's got it all. The inside zone that Chip Kelly runs at UCLA is going to be with him is just such a great match, and I think he's going to be great.
All right, nearly 30 total wide receivers hit the portal during this first window. So, Carl, who on this top 10 list we're showing right now stands out to you as somebody that's going to make an immediate impact?
Well, when you talk about immediate impact, you want to talk about Dominic Lovett at number one from the University of Georgia, previously being at the University of Missouri, a guy who was top 3 in the SEC in receiving a year ago. Georgia has some openings, and he's going to go. He could have went anywhere in the country coming out of the University of Missouri. Catches the ball well, has great body control, great speed, nice big hands, runs incredible routes. I think he's going to have a major impact, and we've talked about Georgia a lot as they chase a three-peat. He's going to be a major factor in that.
What stands out to you on this list, Clint?
I like J. Michael Sturdivant. I mean, he's going to Cal. I mean, he was a 10-4 100-meter track guy in high school, so he can really run. I think that some of the firepower at UCLA and with him going there is just a great match. And Dorian Singer really stands out too, going to Arizona. I like him a lot.
Chris, what about you?
I was actually just going to mention Dorian Singer. He led the Pac-12 in receiving yards this past season for Arizona, and now he's playing for Caleb Williams. Is there a better match possible there? Dorian Singer might not blow you away with his elite athletic traits like a J. Michael Sturdivant does, but he's super productive. He gets open, and I think he's going to thrive with the best quarterback in college football throwing him the football every play.
All right, speaking of catching passes, in a lot of our pre-production meetings, tight ends kept coming up as just a really strong position group in this transfer portal class. Clint, why is that?
Oh, I mean, there's NFL guys all across the board. When you look at it, elite pass catchers, Jaheim Bell, Kyle Morlock, both going to FSU. Eric All going to Iowa is really impressive at Michigan. CJ Dupree going to Alabama from Maryland. He was really good after the catch. He can also be an inline guy. And the one guy that I really want to talk about is Eric Gilbert. He was the top tight end in the country coming out of high school, and he's been at Georgia. He's going to Nebraska. I mean, he has all the ability to be the top tight end in the country. There was some off the field things, but he's got all the talent in the world. I think that he can be really special if he puts it all together.
Clint, I think you're absolutely right. Eric Gilbert is a special talent. Obviously, Georgia ended up also having Brock Bowers as well, which kind of, changed some things a little bit. But going and playing in Matt Rule's system at Nebraska, Emily, is going to give him a chance to kind of regain his swagger a little bit in his focus. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for him in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I expect great things out of him. He has a multi-dimensional skill set and can do a bunch of things at the tight end position, which is what you need out of a guy that plays that spot now.
100%. All right, not an overly headline-grabby class, I think we would call, of offensive linemen, but Chris, how many difference makers do you see on this top 10 list?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of difference makers. I would agree that there's not a ton of future high round draft picks along the offensive line. Most of those guys ended up staying at the schools they were at. If you're a highly ranked lineman, you're probably going to go out early to the NFL draft, or your NIL department is kind of taking care of you because you're very important to your school's game plan. But we have a lot of plug and play starters. I would focus on Auburn. Auburn, I believe, had 3 of the top 10 linemen in this class, including Avery Jones, our top-ranked center. I think Avery Jones, who was at East Carolina previously, is going to bring an immediate connective presence for Auburn. He's going to solidify an offensive line that really struggled last year, along with Gunnar Britton and Dylan Wade on the outside. So I really love that Auburn Tigers class and what Gus Malzahn was able to do in short order in the portal. Auburn had to get better up front, and it did so in the portal in a really strong and emphatic way.
When I look at the names on the list, Emily and Clint, I continue to look at A.J. Cornelius. He's from Rhode Island. He has been on all of our offensive line lists since the transfer portal first opened up. He could have played at any school. Everybody in the country recruited him. He got offered by everybody. He settled in on Dan Lanning's program at Oregon. He's an immediate plug-and-play player. It was a huge fight for his services. I think that he's going to play in the NFL in a couple of seasons, and I'm really excited to see what he does, because I think that when we talk transfer portal, you have to always be aware of the guys that come from the FCS schools or the Division II schools, and they make a jump up. It's a lot to be said about that.
Clint, what do you think about this group of offensive linemen?
I really like Ladarius Henderson, 6'5", 310-pound offensive lineman going to Michigan. I love how Michigan develops offensive linemen. He can play guard. He can even play center. He's got a lot of experience. He started 29 games at Arizona State, so he really stands out to me in his versatility and what he can do.
All right. Well, those were the offensive position groups. Don't worry, the defensive position groups are just ahead.
Oh, hello. I'm Josh Pate. I want to thank you, by the way, for watching the 247 Sports YouTube channel. Double clap. But also, breaking news, 85% of you are still unsubscribed to the channel, and it's free. I've done it, and I've liked the video as well. So click that subscribe button, like the video you're watching, and make everyone around the office a lot happier.
All right, it is time to answer your viewer questions. We got a lot of questions right now. I've been trying to look through the chat. It's mainly just a lot of people talking about how excited they are to get some of these guys as part of their teams. So I'm going to start with this first question here. And Clint, I'm going to throw this to you. How do you factor in the level of competition for players who are coming from smaller schools and making that jump to FBS?
Yeah, I think it's a lot like, these high school players that are playing in low classifications. You got to look how they dominate their competition. Do they have NFL translatable qualities? There's a couple guys that stand out. Kyle Morlock, who's going to FSU from Shorter College, 6'6", 250-pound natural pass catcher at tight end, red zone nightmare. I really, really like what he brings to the table. There's a lot of coaches that thought that he was the best tight end in the transfer portal, which is saying a lot. Zy Alexander, going to LSU from Southeastern Louisiana, had 9 interceptions the past 2 seasons. He's got elite physical traits. He can play man coverage. I really like him a lot too. He's a small school guy going up to LSU.
I think it's just like the NFL draft. We talk about where did these guys come from, like how did they get there with no star rankings. The high school evaluation process is always going to have misses, and not necessarily because our great experts at 247 Sports are missing. It's because people change, people grow. I'm thinking about a Jared Verse, who was essentially 220 pounds when he got to Albany a couple years ago. And then he enters the transfer portal at 280 pounds, and he becomes a likely first-round pick looking ahead to 2024. I'm thinking of Cameron Ward, Washington State's quarterback, who was one of the better quarterbacks in the Pac-12 this year. He was playing in a triple option offense in high school, had a single offer from Incarnate Word coming out. You could even go down to the D2 level. I'm thinking of somebody like Mason Richards at North Texas this year. He was an all-conference player. They found him from the Lone Star Conference. You can find gems anywhere, and we're seeing that through the transfer process. This is allowing teams that are creative to dig deep and find these hidden gems that Clint was just talking about. And we're seeing that happen more frequently than ever. Like, schools are unearthing these guys, and there are more opportunities for FCS guys to move up than there ever have been before.
You're looking for traits. You're looking for size. You're looking for speed. You're looking for length. You're looking for adaptability to a system. And I think that if you go after a guy who plays at a Division II school or an FCS school, you have a better shot at them being good than a high school player, because the level of competition at the FCS level is going to be better than the level of competition at high school. Sometimes it takes a guy like a Jared Verse that Chris just mentioned, like a A.J. Cornelius, like a Murdoch, the tight end from Shorter that's going to Florida State. It takes them an extra year or two. Add size, add length, add strength, add height. It's a lot of things that happen over those couple of years, and they play outstanding. And now the transfer portal has allowed those guys to get into it and go to a higher level. So if I was sitting in that room making a decision, I would feel a lot better about the talent level they're playing than I may feel about the level that some of the high school guys are playing. Also, I will say this to you. If you go Division II or FCS and you stick through it, you might love to play football a little bit more than a guy that came out of high school, because those guys are used to getting treated like stars. And guys that had to come up the hard way through the lower divisions, it's a much tougher haul for them. So you're going to probably be looking at a guy that you can depend on to love football, compete, and play at a very high level.
You got those scrappy guys, the guys with a chip on their shoulder. Definitely want to build a roster based on some of those guys. All right, another one here. Who is someone outside the top 50 that you're keeping your eye on? Clint, start us off.
I really like Caleb Banks. He's going to Florida from Louisville. He's 6'7", 300-pound interior defensive lineman. He's got raw pass rush skills from the inside. He's got the same frame and skill set of a Gervon Dexter, who just left Florida to go to the NFL draft. I think at 6'7", 300 pounds, they're very similar players.
I'm going to go to the Big Ten. Sorry. I'm going to go to the Big Ten with my answer. I really like Drake Nugent coming over from Stanford, going to Michigan. He was a all-conference center. And if you look at some of the advanced data from PFF, he allowed 2 quarterback hits total the last 2 years. This is somebody who keeps their quarterback clean. I think he's going to be J.J. McCarthy's best friend this upcoming season. He's replacing a Remington winner, so there are high expectations for that center position. I think Drake Nugent has the tools to be a very successful college center for one of the best offensive lines in college football.
A guy that I'm really excited about that's right outside of the top 50 would be corner J.K. Johnson, transferring from Ohio State to LSU. He was a national guy coming out of high school. When he jumped into the transfer portal from Ohio State, had offers from everybody, settled in on LSU. There's a familiarity there because his high school coach is the corners coach now, Robert Steeples at LSU. He will know how to motivate him, how to teach him what buttons to push to get the most out of him, because this kid is explosive. He can run. He has great lateral movement, COD, change of direction, and he also has vertical that can cover the ball in the deep part of the field. I think he's going to be a tremendous addition to DBU at LSU.
I love it. We got a question here from Luke King, and I'm going to throw this to you, Chris, because you talked a little bit about Auburn before. Does Auburn land a quarterback after the spring?
I think it's very possible. They were certainly looking very hard during the winter window. They missed on a couple of guys. Obviously, the Grayson McCall deal fell through, which affected Auburn's ability to kind of navigate the portal. So unless Robbie Ashford really wows in the spring, I think it's very likely Auburn dips its toes in the water to at least get somebody to push Robbie Ashford, but more likely to provide some stability at the top of that depth chart.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there'll be plenty of quarterbacks available in the second window. So I think that they do add a quarterback. I thought that they would add one already in the first window to compete with Robbie Ashford, but they didn't. I think that they'll definitely add one in the second window. There'll be plenty of good ones available.
Yeah, use this as your reminder. Only the first portal window has opened, which means that this is our first version of the transfer portal rankings. We'll have a whole new edition come April 15th when the second portal window opens. And I think we're anticipating a lot of quarterback movement based on how those spring position battles go. So definitely stay tuned for that. Got another question here. I'll go to you, Carl. Who will make the most immediate impact?
The guy that I think out of the transfer portal that will make the most immediate impact is Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. He's going to come in out of Jackson State. Think about this, 3,700 passing yards last season, 40 touchdowns. We talk a lot about Travis Hunter. We talk about a lot about the other guys that Colorado has signed. But Shedeur Sanders coming in at the University of Colorado, a quarterback that's ready to play. The addition of Sean Lewis, former Kent State head coach, as the offensive coordinator there at Colorado is a match made in heaven for both guys. They've been working very well together already. Shedeur is a complete guy. And if Colorado's going to win and go to a bowl game like some of the predictions have been made this year, it's going to be because of the arm and the mind and the brain of Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a guy that's getting overlooked a little bit in this deal, but I think that he is the most important piece to a team in the transfer portal because Colorado's success is going to come down to how well he plays this season.
I just want to say I'll be fascinated to see how Shedeur does because he hasn't really faced light competition his entire career. Even if you go back to high school at Trinity Christian, they were just so much better than everybody else. They played in TAPS. Same thing at Jackson State. It'll be a different test in the Pac-12, but I think he's got some of the traits, especially in terms of anticipation and accuracy, to make him very successful. So I'm fascinated to watch Shedeur Sanders. I would point to another quarterback, and that's Tanner Mordecai at Wisconsin. I don't think any single offense is undergoing a more radical change than Wisconsin this year. They're going from heavy boxes, really compressed formations, to running the air raid under Phil Longo, their new offensive coordinator. And I think Tanner Mordecai is the perfect trigger man for that offense. He's been in a spread system his entire career. He ran a very similar system at Oklahoma when he was there with Lincoln Riley to what Phil Longo does. Russell Wilson is the single season passing yards leader in Wisconsin history. I think it's like 3175. I think Tanner Mordecai breaks that record this year. Tanner Mordecai has easily cleared that mark the last 2 years for SMU. And I think he is the perfect bridge passer for Wisconsin as it makes a transition as a program.
Well, I think that Dylan Johnson from Mississippi State going to Washington is an immediate impact guy for me. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry at Mississippi State. And we all know that Mississippi State doesn't really run the ball. So he's going to Washington. He'll be able to use his size and power. He's 6 foot, 220-pound back. Great toughness between the tackles. He's got some wiggle. He's got some agility out in space. I think he'll be a 1,000-yard back at UW for sure.
I love it. All right. I am still monitoring the chat. If you have any more questions, feel free to throw them in there, and we will sprinkle them throughout the rest of the show. But as promised, we got to get to the defensive breakdown. But before we do that, I can do the math here, guys, because we have 140 people watching and just over 70 likes. So that's about halfway. Would love to get to 100 likes. Just need 26 more. So smash that like button. It would be really fun to see that hit triple digits. But if we start the defensive conversation, we got to start with our man Carl, because you are always advocating for defense and how important that is. So let's start with the defensive line. You mentioned Caleb Banks as somebody outside the top 50. Clint did. This catching his eye, but who on this list we're going to show you here of the top defensive linemen? Who stands out on this list?
Who stands out to me is Daryl Jackson. Daryl Jackson is a big pickup for the University of Miami. Huge guy, 6'6", 290 pounds. Is a guy that's played in both even and odd fronts, and it showed a lot of versatility and a lot of NFL ability. As we continue to talk about the transfer portal, roster development, we have got to talk about the guys that play on the defensive line. Defensive line is important. Georgia has showed you that. There's been no drop-off between the first string and the second string on the defensive line at the University of Georgia. When Alabama was dominating, same thing. Ohio State doing their run. Clemson, same thing. These are the most important guys right now on your football program, the guys that can play the defensive line and they can play any front to give you any opportunity to stop any offense.
How about a guy like Anthony Lucas? We know that USC is just welcoming in all the defensive talent that they can build up, but what about him in particular shows you that he's going to be a difference maker? Clint?
Well, I think that he can really play anywhere. You see his highlights there. He can play on the edge. He can bump down and play the interior shades. He's got really, really good size. He's 6'6", 275, 280 pounds. He can be 300 plus pounds and play play the interior shades really well. I think that he moves very fluidly for his size, but there's a lot of untapped potential there that he's got to develop. So we'll keep an eye on him for sure.
Chris,
yeah, Anthony Lucas is going to.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say Anthony Lucas is going to be a huge part of USC's defense this year. USC doesn't return much pressure at all on their front seven. They need to manufacture it from somewhere. I know Anthony Lucas can play inside, he can shade inside, and that's part of his versatility and his appeal. But USC really needs somebody to step up and provide that pressure consistently. USC is losing an All-American at the position Anthony Lucas is going to man. And if Anthony Lucas can play even close to his 5-star potential, it would be a huge boon for USC's ability to win the Pac-12 and challenge for a college football playoff spot this season.
Well, Chris, speaking of pressure, how about this edge rusher class? What stands out to you among these guys?
I wouldn't say this is the strongest edge class in the world. As I said with the offensive linemen, a lot of the top edge guys get locked up or go to the NFL. There's no reason to stick around if you're a top edge guy. You're going to get drafted high. I think the name that fascinates me the most is Josiah Stewart, and that's simply because of his transition from Coastal Carolina to Michigan. Josiah Stewart's been one of the most productive edge players in the country the last 2 years. I believe he's pushing 40 tackles for loss the last 2 seasons since coming in as a true freshman. And the 2021 class, he's been uber productive. But as Clint would tell you in his evaluation, Josiah Stewart is on the smaller side. Not super long, really relies on his quickness to get after the quarterback, and he's been ultra successful doing so. I'll be curious how Michigan employs him, especially given the production off the edge Michigan has lost. So I'll be fascinated to see him. And I do want to mention Logan Fano, the name right below him on that list that we just saw at Utah. I'm talking to people in the Utah program. They're very bullish on his future coming over from BYU. They view him as a potential all Pac-12 player in the future.
A guy I really like on this list, Emily, is Andre Carter from Western Michigan, going to Indiana. Another guy that's going from a G5 school to play in the Big Ten, a Power 5 conference. One thing, as edge rushers start to become the wave, we don't call them defensive ends anymore. We call them edge guys, which lets you know that they're there to rush the passer. But if guys want to be able to consistently play, they also need to be able to defend the run. You can't always have guys flying upfield, leaving huge holes open. So some of these guys, if they can show that they can stop the run as well as rush the passer in passing downs, they're going to bring a tremendous amount of value to themselves for their game. And I think we have some guys on the list who have that type of skill set.
Love it. I like Gilbert Edmond. He's going from South Carolina to Florida State, 6'6", 250 pounds. He had 2 sacks this past season, and I think he's going to do great at Florida State with the pieces that they have put together there. I mean, he's extremely fluid coming off the edge. He's got great ball get off. I mean, he's got a lot of untapped potential. I think he's a guy that we really need to keep an eye on at Florida State.
All right, as for the linebackers, a guy I'm surprised hasn't come up much, if at all, on the show yet, Dasan McCullough. He finds himself near the top of the list at number 2, but when it comes to him, fit really matters here. So, Carl, what makes him such a great fit in this, Brent Venables? defense?
Size, length, versatility. Brent Venables is a guy that's going to give you multiple looks and put you in multiple situations. 6'5", 229 pounds, can play downhill inside the box, but as well can run and come off the edge. And I think that's huge because you can put him in situations where he's rushing the passer. You can also play him in the open part of the defense, which is a big thing with linebackers because we talk about it all the time. The RPO and the multiplicity of the offense. He can do a lot of things for you. Big time talent, comes from good stock, good DNA, great genes, and he's going to play for a guy that loves defense and emphasizes defense. And the great Bill Parcells said many years ago, you can never have enough good linebackers. He loved to collect them. This is one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, I think Deshaun McCullough might have the highest ceiling of anybody, not in the top 10 for us. I think he's given his length and his athleticism off the edge, I think he could be a future first-round pick. If we're going to focus somewhere else in the linebacker room, I would think of Mason Cobb going to USC. USC's inside linebacker play was terrible last year. It was a point of emphasis this offseason for USC to improve it. Mason Cobb not only elevates the competition in that room with Eric Gentry and Shane Lee coming back, but Mason Cobb provides proven experience in a defense kind of similar to what Alex Grinch runs at USC as well from his time at Oklahoma State. So I think Mason Cobb is going to be huge for USC this season as they continue that journey to get a little bit better on defense to elevate their position nationally and their ability to contend. So I think Mason Cobb's going to have a huge role for USC this season.
All right, finally, let's talk some DBs. Fentrell Cypress, definitely somebody, as soon as he hit the portal, they were all swarming. They all wanted to get a piece of Fentrell Cypress. What is it about him that makes him such an impact player?
He had 14 pass breakups this past season, so that really stands out to me as his ball production. He's always around the ball. He's opportunistic. He's outstanding at positioning himself to make a play on the football. He's not the most talented in terms of speed and size, but he's so heady and aware. He's got the route recognition. I love that he's always that guy that's around the football.
Carl, what do you think about this group?
I think that this group is impressive. I mean, when you're talking about, you need guys who can cover. And we talk about Fentrell Cypress. We've talked about him earlier in the show as well. You're talking about, can guys cover in the slot? Can they cover on the outside corner? Can they play zone? Can they play man? He can do it all and fit into whatever role that you want him to fit in. I think he adds tremendous value. But as offenses have gotten better and the rules have been shifted to favor offensive football, it has been tougher and tougher to find great defensive backs. So when you can find guys who can run, who can cover, and who can play on the back end, you have to take advantage of it. And these guys fit the bill for their football teams.
I want to ask specifically about a guy like J.Q. Hardaway. What sort of impact do you foresee him making year one for Kentucky?
I think that he's kind of a developer. I don't know if he'll start right away at Kentucky. He could, but he's a big physical bump and run corner. I think he can get his hands on receivers and reroute them. You know, those big receivers in the SEC. He still has some development. Like I was saying, he was a late riser in high school, but he can really come up and fit the run. I love how physical he is in the run game and how he can tackle, as you see right here. And I think he'll be a great fit at Kentucky in that defense.
I definitely need to echo what Clint said about a developmental prospect. I think J.Q. Hardaway's best football is down the line. But I still think he's somebody who can come in and help with his length. Cincinnati's coaching staff was in love with him, taking him out of high school. I don't want to say he was similar to Sauce Gardner because Sauce Gardner is now one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But he has a lot of traits similar to Sauce in terms of his length, his ability to play press man, his ability to go after the football. So whilst JQ's technique needs to be refined and it's going to take him some time in the SEC, this is somebody, when you talk about a player down the list in the 150, that has a ceiling that's much higher than some of the people ahead of him. So if Kentucky, a program that has gotten a lot out of its defensive players the last couple of years, and continue to do that with J.Q. Hardaway, he's a guy we can view as a potential first-round pick if everything comes together.
We had to get some Kentucky analysis from our Kentucky fan here, Chris Hummer, sporting the Cats colors right now. I don't think you're a Kentucky fan, though. I'm not going to out you on the fan base, though. But we just covered basically every possible prospect that we could. There's so much more that we have to cover, but I want to look at this from a team perspective Before that, though, 11 likes away from 100. I think we can make it. If you have not hit that like button, please hit it. We're at 90 now, so just 10 likes away. But let's highlight some of these classes. There's going to be a little bit of adjustment in the rankings once they officially go live, but nothing's going to change when it comes to Colorado. Still the #1 school. So in your estimation, when you're looking at this Colorado class, how much can these group of guys come in and do what you said, which could potentially be reaching that, I would say the mountaintop for Colorado in year one for sure would be going to a bowl game.
Well, you needed to flip the roster because Colorado had a really bad football team last year going 1-11. And we talk a lot about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, but when you look at some of the other names on the list, a guy that really excites me is Jimmy Horn. Another guy that really excites me is Leonard Payne. Also, another Jackson State transfer, Tavion Beasley, and then you have Jordan Dominchek that came as an edge rusher from the University of Arkansas. You don't just end up #1 in the transfer portal rankings because you signed 2 kids. And I'm going to tell you a key because we never pay attention to it until it matters, Emily and Clint. But Alejandro Mata, the kicker from Jackson State that transferred to Colorado, there's going to be a game or two that's going to come down to his leg, and he's going to have to produce in those crazy environments because he's just not there to interpret Deion Sanders' theme song at the end of games. He's got to make some kicks, and that's why they brought him there, and I think he's up for the task. But #1 transfer portal class from the University of Colorado, big deal for him, a lot of exposure for the Buffs, a lot of expectations now because Coach Prime being there, and I think that they've earned the #1 spot for sure, and those guys are going to have to deliver on the field this fall.
Clint, what about UCLA? They've popped up a little bit. Explain why this class is not just quantity, but also quality.
Well, I just love the infusion of talent on the offensive side of the ball. You have Colin Schley, who's coming in from Kent State. He'll be in a quarterback battle with Dante Moore when Dante Moore gets to campus. So that'll be one to keep an eye on there. I think that Schley, though, is very, very talented as a passer, and he played really good at Kent State when they played Power 5 opponents. So he's a quarterback that I really like in the transfer portal. I like Jamichael Sturdivant at wide receiver. He's, like I touched on before, he's really explosive on the outside. He's a 10-4, 100-meter guy. Carson Steele, who obviously we've talked about quite a bit at running back, and I love what Chip Kelly does in the transfer portal. He really relies on it every year to really infuse the roster with talent on both sides of the ball. They're losing Jake Bobo at receiver, so that was a big loss for them, and then they're adding Jamichael Sturdivant. So he's addressed all the voids that they lost, and I really like what he does in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen Chip Kelly love to use that transfer portal. Also, I think would apply to what Mike Norvell is doing down in Florida State. So, Chris, what is it about this group of Seminoles that stands out to you?
Yeah, first I want to apologize to producer Chris. I know he would have loved to hear a little bit more Kentucky talk out here.
He's the true fan.
But the emphasis with Florida State is clear when you look at this graphic. Every single player on that graphic besides Fentrell Cypress touches the line of scrimmage. Florida State was very calculated in the way they approached the transfer portal. They didn't need to get better everywhere, but they have championship hopes. And they've improved their depth at every position along the line of scrimmage, plus tight end, the guys that play in line. You gotta love Gilbert Edmond, who we talked about coming off the edge opposite Jared Verse. Braden Fisk is going to be great inside for them at nose tackle. Jeremiah Byers at offensive tackle, really providing good depth and potentially a starting option on the inside. Kyle Morlock and Jaheim Bell going to make that team better at tight end, make that offense more versatile. Darnell Jackson, who we talked about earlier. This is a group of impact players on the 2 deep for Florida State at positions that matters when you hope to win a championship. And I think Florida State did an excellent job fortifying their roster for the run they hope to make in 2023.
I love it. All right, guys. We are 2 likes away from 100 likes. So if you have not hit that like button, please do. We are so close. even me telling you this right now, we already got a like. So we are 1 like away from 100. I think we're going to reach it. But just a reminder, if you want to check out our entire transfer portal rankings, this is where you do it, online at 247sports.com. It's not just the updated rankings. You can go and toggle and mess around with that. But we also have so much content. I'm hearing we have hit 100, which is spectacular. A great time to do it as we wrap up the show. But we got a lot of transfer portal content online, so be sure to check that out. One more reminder, too. This is Transfer Portal Rankings Edition number 1. The second portal will open in mid-April, so we'll have a new refresh, which means we will do this again, and we hope that you join us when we do that again. So guys, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on the show today. Again, College Football Today is every Monday and Wednesday right here on the 247 Sports YouTube channel at 5 o'clock. We'll see you next week.